Content warning. This recording contains references to suicide, mental health issues, and addiction. If you or someone you know is struggling, please seek help from a local crisis support center. Hello and welcome to True Colors with Mark Ruschielli.
So if you're ready, I'm good.
I'm good.
So welcome to True Colors podcast. I'm Mark Ruschielli. For those who may be joining us for the first time, this podcast is about honest conversations, healing, recovery, resilience, and finding the courage to live authentically. Today, I'm honored to be joined by Steve Stoken. Steve is a retired London police officer who's had 33 years of service advocating for first responder mental health. He has played a significant role in PTSD recovery and peer support efforts for first responders in London and beyond. More importantly, Steve has been willing to share his own journey, helping others understand that asking for help is not a weakness, it's courage. His work has helped countless people realize they don't have to suffer in silence. Thanks for being here, Steve.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
So I guess I'll get you to start just about your career. So if you could start, what got you into policing? 33 years is a substantial amount. And just tell us how your career evolved.
Okay. I'm going to start my career, and I'm going to say it was my life's journey. I'm going to start maybe in a household with two alcoholic parents, and which led to my mom leaving my dad, and then my mom placing me with somebody who did bad things to me. I didn't like the fact that this person did bad things to me, and I'd always, after that, started to pick on bullies. If I saw somebody bullying somebody, I would be the one who would get between them, and I would take on the bully. I start growing up. I start working. I'm working at the Hamilton General Hospital in the morgue, and I participated in Christian French's autopsy and Leslie Mahaffey's autopsy involving the Paul Bernardo homicide. While we were doing that, all these detectives were coming in and out, and after Christian French, they said it was a serial killer. And I looked at these guys and I said, you know what? I could do what you're doing. So I started looking into becoming a police officer, applied to multiple different places, got accepted by all of them, and I chose London. I thought it was just far enough away from Hamilton, where I grew up, that I don't have to police people that I know. And so I went into policing. Started in 1993. In 1997, I had a series of bad incidents that occurred that led to me getting PTSD. That PTSD had all your normal symptoms, hypervigilance, having nightmares. I would have these crazy, it's more than a movie. It's the vividest nightmares. And some of them were on the call. Some of them were something kind of related to the call. But after about 2 or 3 years of them, now it's around 1997. So I'm starting to have kids with my oldest Zach is there and born, and things kind of take over. So you kind of forget about the fact that you're struggling. But the nightmares didn't stop. My kids grow up, and at some point in time, I started sleeping underneath my window because I was having graphic nightmares of person, which was one of the calls that I was on, coming into my house and killing my whole family. So I couldn't stop the nightmares. It freaked me out. I couldn't sleep. I got to the point where I was scared of sleeping. So I slept underneath the windowsill, hoping my brain would subconsciously not manifest these nightmares. So that lasted. Then it went away with time. I started coaching my kids' teams and do whatever I needed to do, and carried on in policing. At my workplace, our promotional system's corrupt. You really need to sell your soul to become promoted, and I didn't want that. So I just wanted to be a career constable, and I just wanted to be in the trenches. So I stayed in the trenches, and I worked, and I was detective probably more than half my career. So very complex cases. In 2011, something bad happened. A friend of mine killed another person that I knew at work, and then killed herself. She had PTSD, but work turned it around and said that she was just crazy and she's an evil person. And no, I don't think she was. I think she was an injured person. So that put me through another spin of PTSD for a couple of years. Keep going on. I just accept that this is just part of the job, and this is some of the consequences of the job. And so then I become a project lead. In 2011, we had the highest amount of homicides London's ever had and gun violence. So it was on multiple gang task forces, and we were doing kicking doors and going after like the worst of the worst in the city. That completes around 2015. They put me involved in Canada's largest human trafficking investigation, and I was the lead detective, and I looked after a bunch of people while we investigated human trafficking. One thing happened in the human trafficking. I was watching videos. I saw a girl who was, I'm going to just say, being taken advantage of, and she was staring at the ceiling. And I look at that, and I'm like, I know what she's doing, because I did that when I was 6 years old. I would stare at the ceiling while bad things were happening, and it got me. I couldn't sleep. Yeah, I couldn't. I didn't know. I didn't put it together. I didn't know that was, but it really unsettled me, and I just felt like the world was a terrible place. And I just started crying a lot. I even want to cry now, just thinking about how I was thinking back then. I started crying in the showers. I was like, the people in this world are just pieces of shit. They are terrible to each other. We don't deserve to live as a human race. And why would people hurt such innocent people all the time? So that got me. And it was really, really tough. I would cry sometimes going into work, get to work, shut that shit off. It's a military term. And so you shut all your emotions off and you get back to work. Finish my project. Everybody's high-fiving. Steve, you did the most amazing job. The inspector of all of the detectives wanted me to take on a very intricate, organized crime that was going to be all over Canada. And I'm like, sir, I'm not doing very well. I need a break, and I don't want to do this investigation. He goes, Steve, the only guy that's capable of doing it. I want you to do this investigation. It'll take about 5 years. I'm like, I can barely get by every day. So I said respectfully no. I asked to go back to the street, and I just started working the street. And one thing I do like about my job when I'm in uniform is I train recruits. So I started training recruits. We started going to some calls, but that ball that was rolling in my head was just never stopped. So I started manifesting physical pain in my body, which I now know is just somatic symptoms of PTSD that affects 1 in 3 people. And I crashed, went off work. I took 3 weeks off thinking I'd be okay. And then I wasn't okay. Struggled back and forth for a couple of years at work. My workplace, if you're not in the trenches producing, they will marginalize you and put you for removal. And so I was marginalized the entire time. Here's me that all I did was want to work, and now they don't want to trust me to allow me to do that. So eventually just went off work, and it was on and off work till about 2022. 2022 comes around. WSIB says, Steve, you're kind of messed up. They asked me if I just wanted to retire medically. I didn't want to, but my doctors wanted me to. And then I eventually came to grips with it, saying, you know what, I paid a high cost for this job, so I accepted it. And I think that's the point in time where I realized that policing wasn't my identity. That was just a chapter in a book where I could, it was just a few chapters of my book, and I still had a lot to write in my book. So in 2017, when I had first gone off work, though, and I think this is important because it'll lead into why I do all the PTSD work, I wanted to commit suicide. So I had spent some time with all my friends and my kids, and I gave them a really good day with Dad or a real good day with Steve. Once I had picked all the people, I planned my suicide out. I was going to shoot myself in my number 1 dress on my cruiser in St. Thomas, so my London police friends wouldn't see me. I wrote 6 suicide notes. I wrote one teaching my kids, saying to my wife, one teaching my parents, and I actually wrote a 7th letter saying to the cop that was going to find me, I'm really sorry, man. Like, this is going to not look good for you, and I'm going to give you some pain, but this is what's going to happen. So I just thought I was causing a lot of pain. So this whole time I'm conflicted. I'm yelling at my wife. I'm yelling at my kids. I hate myself. I wish I was dead. I would picture me lighting myself on fire and be burning. And I was like, I deserve this. I deserve pain. I deserve everything in this world. I just hated myself. And so I was going to do it. Then I came at peace. I was at so much peace. I was like, okay, I'm going to kill myself. I'm planning it all out. I'm going to drive to St. Thomas. And I had planned a weekend. Well, unbeknownst to me, my wife had been calling out to people saying, something's wrong with my husband. I don't know what's going on. She didn't know I was suicidal, so she reached out to somebody, Project Trauma Support in Perth. This lady, Dr. Manuela Joanno, gives me a call. She's in Ukraine right now, teaching all the psychologists how to deal with PTSD for all of Ukraine, for the war.
Yes.
And so I go there. She says, "Hey, Steve, come on down to this program." And I'm like, "Thank you, but I don't need to. Everything's great." Right? In my mind, I'm like, "Hey, crazy lady, leave me alone. I'm going to just kill myself. Everything will be fine." And so the story ends. Well, I go on the program. She pastors me. I'm like, okay, I can just kill myself next weekend. Go on this program. The program's 6 days. And on day 3, I realize I'm going to beat my PTSD. She's explained it to me in a way that I can understand. And that I knew if I followed what she told me, I would heal from this. So that's what I did. I healed from it. I started healing from it. First thing I did was, when I was stabilized, is I returned back to work, which was a mistake. But I wanted to be back at work, and I should have just stayed off a little bit longer to learn a few more skills. But I went back to work, and then I started going to a PTSD support group in Waterloo. And then I started our PTSD support group that I'm in now for 9 years ago. Mm-hmm. So since that time in the PTSD support group, all it really does is it helps people realize you're a normal person going through a normal situation due to the things that we see and do in our job, and that you're not crazy, you're not bad. We change because we see the worst of the worst. We show up on everybody's bad days. You know, the average citizen has 1 to 2 traumatic incidences in their lifetime that could cause PTSD. The average first responder gets 500 in the first 10 years of their career. So it's just a hard job, and it's not for everybody. So I run this group, and all I want to do is support people so what happens is at work is some places are better than others, but they will support you through all their mechanisms while you're at work. The second you walk out your door, they're done. So if you go off work, expected resources are 0. Okay. And it shocks people. They can't believe, like, I've been abandoned. And I was there to try to pick up the pieces for some people. And I just wanted to show them, you're okay. I will help you get through this because I went through it. Then I started looking for people that had similar mindset as me. So we trained up 7 facilitators, and we ran group for 9 years. Since to this day, I think we have about 480 people that have gone through group and accessed it. So that's kind of my policing journey right now. Interesting thing is, at that CMHA fundraiser, the chief of police tracked me down and gave me my retirement badge, but he also gave me my 30-year exemplary service medal that he went and got signed by the Attorney General.
Amazing.
For the PTSD work that I'm doing, because he still thinks I'm serving.
And I would agree.
It's amazing.
Thank you for sharing that. That is amazing. There's a lot to unpack there, but phenomenal career. And I'm going to start first responding to, I think you mentioned something that's really overlooked, is why we get into what we do. And I think what also molds us from a young age. And I think the stats will also back that up with why we get into service at such a level, and also why we allow certain graces when we've been through certain things. And I think that a lot of times that's overlooked and needs to be brought to light, especially at the beginning of a career, because it makes us vulnerable. Someone, and you have a son in service, starting a career. He's got a beacon as a dad who can tell him, and watch for him. But not everyone has that luxury. And I think when we start, holding people accountable to not just a standard, but their past, and allowing them to see and understand, like you've shared in your story, and those are unbelievable things that you've had to go through, that this is not just possible, this is going to happen. It's not a matter of if, it's usually when. And I think the biggest thing that I've had to have people understand, and I think you did it very well, is it's not the gruesome stuff that we carry. It's a lot of the emotional stuff that we can't shed. It's that heaviness that spills into our families when we go home, that people don't understand of why we're acting certain ways. We can, TV, media, and all that show us some of the most gruesome stuff we've ever seen. That's not usually our issue. Our issue is handling that emotion, handling the heaviness, not being, seeing someone who looks like a child that or dealing with things that, we're not trained as first responders to deal with and diffuse. And thanks for talking about, and I'm really glad the chief did that. I've got to meet the chief as well. And I'm honored to hear all the stuff that he's doing, because I think we also in fire have a chief that has been an advocate for health and not always understood from some of the membership. And I think I used to get quite angry with that. And I think, I know you and I have had a few conversations. Do you think that there is something that goes along with the acceptance part, where we've hit a place where we've not only willing to do what we need to do to heal, and you've taken that to a level of service, like he's acknowledged you, and you've been acknowledged by several people for helping others. And I think that is service. I think it's hard for people to understand what they're not willing to accept. And when they're trying to hold on through this job, through this bravado per se, we're allowing the promotion of things to carry it by themselves. And maybe I'll get you to talk about that.
Yeah, I think we had an unrealistic expectation when we joined the job that we are going to do a full 30 years of service or whatever it is to that person, what they're going to do, and that we were going to complete that. I think what we need to start, that was an unrealistic expectation. The PTSD stats are 32% of all first responders are going to get PTSD. WSIB, I was on a committee for 3 years with WSIB. I got recruited by them to try to fix the issue of first responder PTSD. They believe that 50% of all first responders are in the clinical diagnostic range of PTSD, and that some people are just handling it better than others, or maybe there's addictions or distractions or whatever it is that gets them through it. But I think we have an unrealistic expectation that we're going to do a full career. I think what we should be looking at ourselves is this. We're an elite athlete. So let's just say a professional baseball pitcher. Does that professional baseball pitcher want to pitch for 20 years, let's say? Well, some of them do, but some of them don't. Some of them go for years, blow their elbow out. Some of them have a bunch of surgeries, maybe come back a little bit, do it again. And some of them don't that. And I do feel like these professional athletes go through the same thing as us once they're not producing and then unfulfilled. And if their career is ended prematurely, they think it's a failure on their part. When Ronda Rousey lost her UFC event, she wanted to kill herself because she had never lost a fight in her whole life. And she just couldn't take it. She didn't. I can't believe I'm dead. And what happened, I can't believe I lost. I should be dead instead. I hate myself. What happens is we have to pump ourselves up. We are trained. We have our coworkers with us to say, you can do this because I'm going to do it with you. Mm-hmm. And you're rock solid together. And you feel like you're invincible. So I could run into gunfire. I have no problem. I've had people shoot at me. I've had people try to stab me. And I knew that I would get through this because I have good training. I have good equipment. I have people beside me that I would give my life for somebody, and somebody would give their life for me. But when you can't finish that and do it, and then you're excluded from that group when you walk out the door, it is devastating. Mm-hmm. And I do think that if we had more realistic expectations, and if we did training saying, hey guys, when you're a recruit, some of you people are not going to make it through your career. And you have to realize that this is just a chapter of your life, and that you are going to do as much as you can. And we're going to do cool shit, but maybe some people will be doing it longer than others. And it's okay.
I think that's, again, the proactive side of it, right? Not to scare or threaten, but to better teach. And I like how you because athletes, I've heard that before. And I think when we think that way, athletes have focus coaches. They have psychologists.
They do.
Right? They take care of their temple. Their body is their livelihood. Well, that's also is what we go through on any given day. We have to be mindful of what we're putting in the body, both good, bad, and in between. How we take care of the body. And I think that in the beginning of a career, it's easier to have the go to the gym and find the time for these things. But I think as we evolve, we have to be mindfully growing, and that's a part where I know we have better fitness. We have, gyms now at the stations. But I think the proactive side to even breath work, which I'll get you to talk about in a minute, a lot of athletes will do that, not because they are anxious. They're doing it because they know the benefits of breath. And I think, in fire, we teach a lot of reactionary. You got your vibra alert going on and you're running on your 10% air. Well, your anxiety is going through the roof because your vibra alert's shaking and you can't hear very well and it's dark and you can't see and you got to get out. But if we teach more and more the proactive side of how to be calmer, how to not allow our sympathetic system to kick on, and how to, more importantly, how to activate the parasympathetic, how to use the vagal tone. And when we accept those and we start using those to teach proactively, like athletes, right? Runners, distance runners, 4 overtimes in a hockey game. Those athletes need to keep conditioning. And I think you're really onto something, because it can't be ignored. And we can't say, well, it's somebody else's fault. We can't, as a union, we can't say it's just management. We also have to advocate for that on our side of the fence. And I think the more and more we have been given, what we've been given in a career, we can make it better. You and I may not see the benefits of that, but your son may, right, in the next generation. And I think that would be an amazing win for that. And since we've you touched on, I guess, the athlete part of it and breath, I'll get you maybe to talk about, especially in recovery, what modalities you use.
So my first training that I received was as a recruit, and we would go to the club and we'd have choir practice and drink and be stupid and yell at each other and do that. So that was my first training on how to deal with stress. A couple times I was during training, I would get in, something would happen, or I'd see like a dead child or something that was just distressing. And like, Steve, it's okay, man. Let's go to the club. Let's go to the club. So that was the first training that I received. Okay. The second training that I received is, you're at the scene and you're seeing something terrible and I'm having an emotional reaction. So the veterans around me will punch you in the arm, or they'll give you this look, or they'll have this cold stare. So you learn, shut that shit off. So you learn how to shut off emotions. So that's the second training that I had. Unfortunately, that training is not very helpful, because there's a consequence to this training: addiction and everything that comes with addiction. You're avoiding dealing with the problem, shutting that shit off and being numb. Unfortunately, first responders, it doesn't take very long for them to be numb. But when you shut that shit off, you also turn off happiness. You turn off love. You turn off anything that has nothing to do with survival. So you become neutral, or like Manuela will say, is gray soup. Your life is gray soup. There's no flavor. It's nourishing. You just get by. And
it's gross.
So you learn that. So that numb part of it will now get us through longer. Back to childhood trauma and this stuff. The average first responder has an adverse childhood event score of 4 out of 10. So for your listeners here, if you Google ACE score or adverse childhood events, it's a score out of 10, and you can calculate that score. And what you'll find is first responders will have had adversity in life, and they want to fix that adversity. So they are drawn into the first responder realms. So everybody's walking around with some portion of something that has motivated them to become have a life of service for this stuff. So I crashed now from PTSD. My next coping mechanism was suicide. I just avoid it and be done with it. I didn't want to yell at my things. So that's obviously not a good coping schedule, right? That's a scheme. So then I go to Project Trauma Support. The first thing I do is diaphragmatic breath work. I have a picture of me laying on the floor, smiling. I had realized after I did this 90 minutes of very intense breath work, to the point of I almost passed out. I cried. I had not cried that way in a long time. It was a releasing cry. And I thought, you know what? Okay, somebody just showed me something that worked, and I get it.
The lights came on.
And so I got into breath work. First, I got into meditation because I had a racing mind. One of the things that led me to wanting to commit suicide is I put my head on my pillow and I'd want to go to bed, and I couldn't. Gerbil on the wheel was just always going, and I just could not shut my mind off. I would eventually fall asleep by exhaustion, and I would flip and turn over my pillows and get mad at it and angry, sleep a couple hours, and then usually startled by a startle reflex or a nightmare or something, or I would wake up and then my gerbil on my wheel would keep going again. And you are literally going insane. Why do you think the United States Armed Forces use sleep deprivation as a torture technique? It's very highly effective and it freaks people out. So every first responder is going through it, right? So that sleep deprivation, you can only do it for so long before it gets to you. And so meditation helped me calm my mind. It helped me, if something was to distract me, I could focus on one point, bring my mind back into order and refocus it, not be mad at myself, and then do that. Next thing I learned was breath work. My psychiatrist saw that I was struggling, and she told me, why don't you try a Sirudish Kriya Yoga, which is through the Art of Living or through the International Association of Human Values. I went through a course on it, and it was a game changer. It helped me self-regulation. If I had a panic attack or I wanted to kill somebody, so me driving down the street and some dummy cuts me off, nothing more than stupid people what gets me to want to become homicidal. So now I can take a breath. I can give myself self-regulation and allow me to calm myself down and not have that fight-flight reflex. And now it was a tool that I could use daily. Next was compassion towards myself. Mm-hmm. I hated myself. I thought I was weak, and I'm just doing the best that I can. And I need to be compassionate. Even when I screw up and make a bad mistake, I need to be compassionate and say, Steve, you screwed up and you made a mistake. Everybody does it. You're just going to try your best the next time around. And if I kept trying my best, and the next thing that came with that was positivity. I only look at the negative stuff in life. And it's very beneficial when you're a first responder to always worry about what's going to kill me, right? So even today, when I walk up, I don't walk directly in the front door. I walk up beside the door and I come beside it, and then I knock on the door because I don't want to be shot through the door. And that's still ingrained in my soul. So what you need to start doing is not thinking about that negativity. We're sitting in a studio right now. Life is safe. Mm-hmm. Nobody's going to hurt me. I'm okay. And I have to constantly tell myself. So positivity, saying, this is great what we're doing today. And so that positive mindset is the next tool that I thought was very beneficial.
You've been listening to True Colors with Mark Ruscielli. Executive production by Mr. Norm Media Productions.